Woodworking case study from Ysgol Bryn, Collen. Our vision was to give our children the opportunity to be creative, imaginative and to learn new lifelong skills in woodworking. We wanted to get involved in the project as we felt it linked in with lots of different skills from the new curriculum, and also our learners and staff are very excited to try something new. All our staff were very excited to allow the children to develop their creative skills in whichever way they want to, and allowing them freedom to make whatever they want, as this is something we feel that we didn't do enough in our lessons. We had already started bringing woodworking skills into our forest school by making wooden reindeers for Christmas. We were still in the very early stages of bringing woodwork into our provision, so that's why this project was perfect for us to give us some guidance on what to do next. Ysgol Bryn Collen is an English medium primary school in the town of Collen. We like to describe ourselves as a free-range school, and all our children spend lots and lots of time in our beautiful outdoor areas. We have 2 forest school settings that we have access to, one area in our school site and one area a short walking distance away called Minicoid Woods. Every child from nursery to year 6 in our school spends part of their week going outside to learn in the outdoor areas. When we first heard about the project, we thought it would be a perfect match with our current forest school. We felt like the forest school ethos lent itself well to what we were trying to achieve with the woodworking project. It also allowed us a safe space to be able to explore new skills. In Ysgol Bryn Collen, our classrooms are quite small and our outdoor areas are all on one long slope, so we didn't feel like we could safely have a woodworking provision in our outdoor area or in our classrooms. That's why we decided forest school was the perfect place. One of our lovely teaching assistants had the great idea to make our woodworking provision mobile and to get sorted into a big trolley so we could take it up to the forest each time. We set up a storage box outside with all the things we'd need for our woodworking provision so they were quick and easy to grab on forest school day. Wood that we were provided with quickly went as the children were so excited to make lots of different things. So we decided to reach out to our local high school and create links with their woodworking department. It turns out that our local high school had mountains of offcuts that they normally threw out or recycled that were perfect for our children. Myself and a teaching assistant completed the online course by Pete Morehouse. We learned how to set up an area, how to resource it, and how to move the children on. We started by introducing the different tools and resources to the children, and with a big focus on how to use them safely. We used offcuts of wood to practice the different skills that we'd learned, screwing and unscrewing screws, hammering and sawing. We set differentiated challenges in our enhanced provision areas, which allowed the children to practice their skills independently.
I know that wood comes from trees that grow in the forest.
Where can you find wood and how to use a saw?
I found out how to use a hammer safely.
Our learners were then told that they had the freedom to make whatever they wanted to make. We asked the children to start by designing what they wanted to make and getting their ideas down on paper. Here are some examples of their designs and their finished products.
This is my work from the forest. I coloured it in all rainbowy. It is a piano. I made it with buttons, nails, balsa wood, normal wood, cable wires, and I coloured it in. I made it in the forest.
I made 2 owls, the mummy owl, the baby owl, to make the hammer and nails to make the space. My windmill. I made it with screws. I made it with corks, wood and balsa wood. I made it in the forest by screwing in a screw, cutting wood, hammering in a nail. I love it and I can't wait to show people.
I really felt that this was a great project that encompassed all of the 4 purposes in the new Welsh curriculum. The children were able to build their confidence by completing the project over a number of weeks. Each week they built on what they'd done and made it better, which allowed them to feel proud of their work. The children were able to build confidence by practicing the woodworking skills before using them on the products themselves. The children actually started this conversation themselves by asking where the wood was coming from and where it was growing, which led to a conversation on sustainability. This fit in well with our main topic of rainforests, as it allowed us to talk about the deforestation in Brazil. We talked about how the wood we were using was leftovers from Dinas Bran and was being reused. We also talked about the current culture of reusing and fixing things, and these woodworking skills could help us to become more ethical as we're older by fixing things instead of throwing them. There were so many opportunities for the children to develop their creative skills in this project. The thing they most enjoyed was being able to make whatever they want without being told to make a certain thing. One child in our Year 1 class wanted to make a car that could be sold in a shop. This led to a discussion with all the children about what they needed to do to their models to make them sellable. This project was a big challenge for the children, as lots of them had zero knowledge of the topic before we started. By the end of the project, the children became really capable learners with the woodworking. They were better than some of the staff, especially with the hammering. We felt like we covered 10 of the 12 pedagogical principles in the new curriculum, from creating authentic contexts for learning, allowing the children to actually take part in woodworking, to promoting problem solving and how to change their products to make them work. We also covered lots of skills in the 4 purposes. I've highlighted the ones that we felt that we covered during the woodworking project. The children were able to seek challenge by wanting to create big and very complicated models, not just sticking simply to people or cars. The children were able to become knowledgeable about our society, and in particular our community, who are big on upcycling, recycling, reusing and sustainability. The children were able to use their knowledge of woodworking that they gained from practicing and developing their skills to create their own products. The children were able to develop their emotional well-being and their resilience by not giving up when something went wrong and trying the next week to make it even better. They were also able to empathise with their friends when things didn't go quite to plan. The children were encouraged to work collaboratively and to support each other when they were stuck, and it actually led to certain children who don't tend to lead academically in the classroom to take charge of the situation and help others. At the end of each woodworking activity, we had little feedback sessions where the children could ask each other for help and support on how to move their models on. The children were able to use these feedback sessions to self-assess their own model and look at where to go next, and also to peer assess their friends' models. This led to the children working collaboratively. As they discussed their models in the feedback sessions, this boy said that he was struggling to hammer this into here, and the girl said, "Oh, I know how to do that, I can help you in our next session," and she then led him and supported him with his hammering in the next session. I think this is one of the AOLEs that we covered the most through the woodworking session. So the children gained so much confidence, they learnt resilience and they became competent in a new skill. One of the skills that we covered was I can identify and assess risks. The children had lots of discussions on what was safe, how to use the tools safely, and we had no problems with anyone being silly with them. Another skill we covered was I have the confidence and motivation to persevere when faced with physical challenges. This was really obvious when the children moved from balsa wood to pine wood and the harder woods, because it was a big struggle and it took them a couple of weeks to overcome that. We covered the humanities area of learning, mainly with the discussions that we had with the children about where wood comes from and sustainability. One of the skills we covered was I can recognise the distinct physical features of places, environments and landscapes in my locality and in Wales, as well as in the wider world. We had a big discussion about where wood comes from and the forests that we have in our local area and the rainforests that they have in Brazil. Another discussion that we had with the children was about not wasting the resources, making sure that everything had a purpose and that we were using all of the materials, not just the bits that we wanted, which fit in with the skill of I can take care of resources and not waste them, and I am conscious of the importance of creating a sustainable future. One skill that we covered in the science and technology area of learning was I can safely use a range of tools, materials and equipment to construct for a variety of reasons, and the children definitely achieved this with the amazing models that they made. We also talked about the life cycle of a tree and talked about what they do for us. At the end of the project, we felt that we covered most of the skills in the area of learning of expressive art. From exploring and experimenting with techniques and tools to creating their own designs and working collaboratively with others to develop their creative ideas. The children were able to both use creative materials safely and with some control under supervision, and also give and accept feedback as both an artist and audience. Towards the end of the project, the children began measuring their models and measuring the pieces of wood that they were adding on. They used both standard and non-standard units of measure depending on their ability. The children also had lots of discussions around shape, which was the strongest shape to use, the best shape to use for each scenario. There were so many opportunities to get languages literacy and communication through the woodworking sessions, from listening to instructions to discussing their ideas with others. One skill in particular that we covered was, I can use my imagination to create my own literature, and the children used their own imagination to make their models, and then they made stories from them. So one little boy made a fishing rod, and he made a whole story about how he went on a fishing day with his dad, and they caught 4 different fish, and they were all different sizes. Another skill that we covered was I can organise my writing into a logical sequence. Some of the children decided that they wanted to make instructions on how to make their models. So in the forest they got clipboards and pieces of paper and they wrote down instructions so that someone else could make that model as well. We have a little girl in our class called Poppy who we observed during the woodworking sessions. She's typically a child who doesn't enjoy playing outdoors as she doesn't like to get messy. She struggles academically but is incredibly creative, and she'll spend hours on the most detailed, beautiful pictures. The staff were all really surprised at how much Poppy loved the woodworking sessions, particularly as she was really reluctant to take part. But as soon as she realised how creative it was, she wanted to make things. We observed Poppy making something unique every single week. For example, just in the first 2 weeks, she'd made herself a car with its own label and a pyramid where she'd hammered the pieces of wood together. She's become incredibly independent and wants to go and find her own piece of wood and work the whole thing out by herself. To measure using a T-square to ensure she can get a straight line for her models. Poppy now needs to work on finessing her woodwork models by sanding edges and corners. Poppy's been able to develop her personal social skills by becoming more independent in her learning and is now also able to give other children advice on their woodwork. She has a good awareness of hazards and how to be safe in the environment. Poppy is beginning to bring mathematical skills into her woodwork by measuring lines and using specific 2D shapes within her work. Poppy's able to use her oracy skills to discuss her ideas and models with peers and adults, and is able to share ways to improve her work with teachers. She is developing her physical skills, and we've seen a massive improvement in her screwing/nailing techniques, going from balsa wood to pine and also with her sawing skills. Poppy has found a new outlet to channel her creative mind and has absolutely loved being able to make whatever she wants. Poppy now has the target to slow down a bit and use more screws in her work, and to be able to stop when asked by an adult. The most surprising thing we've seen from Poppy with woodworking is how much of a leader she's become. She's the child that the other children go to when they need help or support with something, and she has absolutely flourished in that role. 30% of our children had done some form of woodwork before starting the project. 15% of our children felt confident in using tools and with woodworking skills before we started the project. 75% of our children said that they felt confident using tools and with woodworking skills after we'd finished the project. This was a rise of 60%. 90% of our children said that they absolutely loved the project. And every single child in our classes wanted to do more woodworking. 40% of our children said that they wanted to do woodworking in the classroom, whereas 60% said they wanted to keep doing it in the forest. We had great feedback from all the parents who were amazed that their children become so confident and competent in woodworking. Parents were able to get involved by feeding back to children on our Seesaw app, and the comments we had were lovely.
I enjoyed screwing the nails in. My favourite thing was hammering the nails in.
My favourite thing was using the handrail.
My most favourite thing was playing with my friends.
My favourite thing was making models with my friends.